All right, welcome. So in this video, I want to start a short series on tower defense and tower defense mechanics. And to start building a little tower defense demo, I decided to animate some characters from Warcraft 2. The reason I selected Warcraft 2 is it was still a pixel-based animation, and Warcraft 3 they moved to 3D models. And then also I wanted to show off sort of an older style of organizing one's animations around different directions one is facing. As you can see here, I have animated the archer and the footman, and I've also included an arrow because I want to shoot arrows out of my tower and shoot arrows out of my archer. And so I've started by animating my assets in the 8 cardinal directions that Warcraft 2 is organized around and that a lot of other games are also organized around. I've gone to the Sprites resource to find the sprites, and one thing you'll notice about the way that Warcraft 2 animates its characters is it actually, it saves itself a little bit of memory and space by only animating the characters in 5 directions and then flipping these 3 models to the left side for the left facing as well, which makes little tiny artifacts that you might have noticed. I never noticed them playing them. For instance, your footman, his sword will change from one hand to the other if you flip this to the other side. But again, it's a small little artifact that you wouldn't notice. But you'll notice, for instance, you can't do that with the up and the down. If I flip this upside down, it just looks like he's walking on his head. That's not what we want. So we need these 5 directions, but we can still flip these 3 to get something that works out right. So that is the way that the Warcraft 2 has animated them. The other thing I'll notice or point out here is that the animation for walking is organized vertically in these sprite sheets. And since I didn't want to have to redesign the sprite sheets too much, I took them for what they were. And what that has meant is I've actually had to make a change to my animator in my draw frame class. If you took a look at my other animator class, this little logic here where I move from one frame to the next used to occur on the x coordinate because my previous animations were organized horizontally along a row. These animations are organized vertically, so all I did literally was just cut that from that position and pasted it here and then changed the width here to height. That made sense to me, and then I tested it and it worked. So I've made that change. Instead of making my animator class more robust, being able to handle both vertical and horizontal, I just took my old one that handled horizontal and did some surgery on it, so now that it handles vertical only. The other thing I noticed about this particular footman sprite sheet is that when I went through my effort to normally go and check pixels and find what each frame is, find out how much padding is in between each one, I couldn't get the animations to settle down to look like they were actually walking in place. And what I found, or what I determined, was that some of these frames were actually out of position, and so I had to load the sprite sheet into Paint 3D, and then I just grabbed a single frame and I would move it up or down by a single pixel, and then I would reload my animation and see if that put the frame where it belonged. And I did this for at least the walking animation. I haven't done it for the fighting animation yet, and I was able to get the walking animation to work out cleanly. What I did find is that the archer sprite sheet was fine, and so this is just, again, as you'll maybe notice, that as you find sprite sheets out in the world, these sprite sheets have been put together by people just like us. And so these people maybe, have made an error or have made a design choice that you don't like. So you might have to go in there and maybe modify that sprite sheet so that it actually does what you want it to do. The other sprite sheet that I chose to use here was this one that was called Magic and Missiles, which has a lot of sort of extra extraneous animations in it. But I went and I pulled out this arrow animator, and I just actually hacked this sprite sheet down and only pulled out this little one so to make it a little bit easier on myself. And I actually animated my arrow in 2 different ways. And we can see that here, as the arrow turns around here, these 3 are all flipped versions of these 3 images. But otherwise, we have 5 distinct images. I've also chosen to animate the arrow here, as you can see, rotate more smoothly around using a different technique which is rotating the arrow. And in fact, for this technique, I took the right-facing arrow here, which was, I chose the right-facing arrow because at least in JavaScript animation, but also in a lot of other animators, we treat 0 degrees rotation as straight out to the right. And then I rotated it around using the rotation in JavaScript for the canvas, and I rotate it. Now we can see a trade-off here between these two methods. One, we have a sort of clearer image of a pixel arrow that has been rotated into the 8 cardinal directions, but cannot be rotated into any other angle other than that. When we use the rotation methodology here, we can get any angle we want. I've defaulted to 360 angles here instead of having an arbitrary infinite number as it was. And I've actually only rotated that one, as I mentioned, right-facing arrow. What that does is it actually introduces a little bit of blurriness into all of the rotated versions of it. And so this is the trade-off. If you want a little bit of blurriness, again, that comes because I started with a pixelated image, and then it, or we can just keep it in these 8 cardinal directions, which leaves it less blurry when we rotate it. So I'm just going to show you the 2 different methods I've used to organize my animations for these entities. So I will start with my archer, since the archer was actually sort of the most painless of the ones to animate here. I've only created the walking animations for now, which is going to be animation 0. I'm going to set up attacking and the death animation later. The way that I've organized these animations into my archer class is I have taken the 5 animations and I've gone in and I've looked up the coordinates for those 5 animations, and I've entered those in, and I've pushed each one of these into an animations array. Now I was going to use multiple arrays to do attacking and death animations as well. I haven't finished those ones yet, so I've only actually put in the walking animations yet, but these are the 5 different directions that I've got for my walking animations. And so I'm going to use this facing integer to keep track of which way my archer is facing, and I'm going to use that to index into my array of animations. Then down below here, I do exactly that. If I'm facing in one of the 5 directions that I have an animation for, I just paint that animation. I just call that animation. Otherwise, I have to do a little bit of extra logic. Now this is reflection logic. Go take a look at my reflection video if you want to know a little bit more about this. This is going to flip us over the y-axis, meaning we're going to get a vertical flip. So we're going to get a flip to the left. And the way I've done this, I've just did a little bit of math here, is that I'm going to have to iterate backwards through the three flippable animations, and I'm going to iterate backwards by just taking 8 and subtracting off the facing. That will tell me the right one to flip, and the scale math here just flips it, and the save and the restore just makes sure that this transformation I do doesn't affect anything else I'm drawing to the screen as well. Now this logic I've duplicated here in my footman and also in my arrow as well. I've got this same logic. That's what's allowing me to do those rotations in the 8 cardinal directions. The only other logic I want to look at before I look at rotating my arrow in a different way is looking at what I've added to my updates. This is just for testing at the moment, but my goal was I just want to be able to instantiate it with a velocity, the way that it is moving, and then have the direction, its facing property, this dot facing, to be able to be calculated to be whatever direction it should be facing based off of that velocity. So I've just got a little bit of logic here. I've got an elapsed time so that it turns over the time, and then I just take that time and calculate it into an angle that or a velocity vector here, which is just an angle. I'm just using simple math to calculate a point on a unit circle here. And then I'm going to use this helper function that I call getFacing. And I wrote this helper function just because I'm going to use it in all my logic here. I have getFacing. It does 2 things. First of all, if my velocity is 0, if I'm not moving in any direction at all, I don't want to cause an error. The tangent is not, or the arctangent, sorry, is not defined for that. So then I'm going to push it through this arctan, which is going to take a point And from that point, it will calculate the angle that that point would form if you created an angle with the origin, 0, 0. This will give us an angle in radians. And so I'm going to take that angle and I'm going to divide it out by pi. And actually that should give us an angle now that's going to be between 0 and 2. But technically the way that arctan works in JavaScript, and also in a lot of other languages actually, is instead of giving us back a number between 0 and 2 pi, it gives us a number back between minus pi and plus pi. So when I divide out by pi here, I'm actually going to get a number between minus 1 and 1. And so now all I've got is basically my checks here to check, is it in this range? Then I should return 0, 1, 2, and these are the different angles that I should return. And I just put them in order 0 up to 7, sort of clockwise from top. 0 is up in the Warcraft 2 logic, even though 0 is to the right in our JavaScript logic. So I've just used this little helper function get facing, and it's sort of global so that all of my different objects can access it to just figure out which way they are facing. So I use that inside my arrow, my footman, and my archer to know which way I'm facing, and then I use, in my draw, I just check the facing property to know which way I should draw. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the rotation that's a little more smooth here, even though it's a little blurry, the smooth rotation that will allow us to rotate this angle in any direction. One thing I'll also mention is it's impossible to use this technique on the archer and the footman because they're not just purely rotated. Each image as the archer walks in different directions is going to have different. For instance, as he's walking up, we see more of his cloak. As he's walking down, we see more of his bow. But the arrow, because it's sort of symmetrical in all directions, we can spin it like this. So we could use this technique. It's usually useful on ammunition. Now the way to do that, I'm still going to be using this arctangent method, this math function that's going to help us by calculating this angle. But again, remember as above, this angle is going to be in radians, and it's going to be between minus pi and plus pi. I want an angle that's between 0 and 2 pi. So if my angle is less than 0, I just add 2 pi. So that will move it into the right region that I'd like. And then I'm also going to calculate my angle in degrees. Now, this is only necessary because I want to do a little bit of time-saving, energy-saving stuff. And basically what I've made a decision for myself is I want to save each rotation of my arrow to each of one of the 360 degrees. I will save one image of each of those rotations. So in the other format where we decided in the Warcraft 2 design, they decided on 8 cardinal directions and they would animate everything in those 8 directions. I'm deciding here on 360 directions, and I could have used any other choice here, but I chose 360 because that way it's in degrees. And this way, when I take the floor, so all I'm doing is taking the angle, dividing it by the 2 pi, which will give me a number between 0 and 1, and then multiplying it by 360, which will give me an angle, and then take the floor of that so that I've got an integer version of that angle, and I'm going to pass that into this special function I've written here called draw angle, which will draw it at a special angle. Now, why did I write this special function? Is because I want to make sure that if I've already rotated the arrow to this angle, say it's 90 degrees. If I've already rotated it to 90 degrees, I don't want to do the rotation again. So what I'm going to do in this draw angle is more than just draw it. I'm going to check to see, have I done this before? And if so, reuse what I've done before. So here's what I'm going to do for the rotation. Again, if you want to learn a little bit more about rotation, take a look at my rotation video a few videos ago. This one is, I'm going to take advantage of that to show how I'm going to rotate it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, this is just a little bit of error checking. Make sure that you've given me an angle in the range that I expect, 0 and 359. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this cache. Now up above here, I've created a cache, but it's empty. I'm going to check the cache, and I'm going to index it with the angle that I just got passed. It's important here for us to remember that this cache, even though it looks like it's a list, is technically a map. So even if some of these entries do not exist, I can enter the entries at any order I want. I don't have to go in order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can do 42 first, and then 90, and then 16, and then whatever, go all around. So here all I'm doing is checking this map technically. Have I reached this angle before? If I have not reached this angle before, then I will do this block of code. Now this block of code creates an off-screen canvas, draws my arrow on that canvas and rotates it, and then stores that canvas in the cache at this angle. Now this is relying on a piece of JavaScript design that allows us to take any other canvas and draw it to our canvas if we want. So I'm going to store this other canvas in my array of different rotations of my arrow at different angles, and then I'm going to go out here and I'm going to call draw image on what I've stored inside that cache. Now luckily this is just a single frame that I've stored in the cache, so I just need to do a very simple draw frame to it. I just do draw frame at this XY, and I don't have to pick out what part of the page it happens to be on. For instance, like I'm doing here. Here I'm picking out that right-facing angle so I can draw it rotated. Here I'm just taking that rotated image and painting it wherever I want to. Now the benefit of this draw angle, the rest of this is debug code, but the benefit of this is that the next time I come in, if I'm rotated at the same angle, I skip all this rotation logic and I just draw the rotated image, which is only this line of code. Okay, now this is beneficial because this rotate call, as well as to a lesser extent these translate calls, are expensive on your graphics processor. Effectively, you're doing some graphics processing here. This type of rotation, you want to minimize the number of times you do it. Because it's expensive, it will use a lot of battery juice, or it will just use a lot of energy in your machine, which will cause it to be a little bit hotter, which will cause you to, use your fan and so on. So you probably don't want to do that. You want to minimize as much energy as you can. So here, this little technique of storing it once I've rotated it so I don't have to rotate it again is actually the better way to do it. Now, technically, I should be doing that with all my flipped animations as well, but the overhead for me to just, in terms of code, for me to type that in, given my current way I've designed my code, was more than I wanted to put in. So I just said, well, too bad, I'll just flip them every time. But the same principle applies here, that flipping your image using this scale operation is expensive, and so if we can minimize that, instead saving these, that would be a better way of organizing these animations. All right, so this video was just to show you how I've animated my little archer, footman, and my arrow so that I can use it in my demo. In my next couple videos, I'll just show you how I can path these characters along prefixed paths and also aim my arrows at things and have them travel along a trajectory to hit those things. All right, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in that next video.